Hello my people, I am back once again. Host for today, Nathaniel James. Hello my people, I am back once again, your host for today, Nathaniel James, on the Walk a Mile in My Shoes podcast. And I have a special guest with me today who goes by the name of
Preiti.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's fine. I really appreciate it. So, just for the viewers, just a small description about yourself and your background.
So I actually live in Birmingham, not too far from the airport in Sheldon. I know Nathaniel for about 5 years.
Yeah,
we
about
met.
5 years.
We met at the Pump, the Centre of Youth. When you still are, but when I met you, you were mentoring young people, helping them to share their voice through music. And I've seen, since continuing to stalk you on Instagram, that you're still doing the same. You're still kind of looking into knife crime and people to protect themselves, and obviously more recently Stop and Search, and making sure that the youths know how to keep themselves safe, and also a bit about doing good onto others a bit. I think that's a lot of what you do. A bit about me, I guess, is besides this, I actually work in more of a kind of, corporate world. I previously, I started out after going to uni thinking that I'd be a manager and all that, and straight away, and it wasn't the case at all. I started at the bottom in the helpline at a company, and a case of saying yes to some opportunities that came along the way, and I was really blessed to move to a few different cities, work with a few different companies, and then it got to about, maybe 4 years, and then the job just wasn't challenging me anymore. I wanted to always be challenged. I always wanted to be able to give something to the business or the people that I worked with, and that wasn't the case. And then I took a trip. I quit my job, took a trip travelling, which we'll talk more into.
We'll talk more about that.
And then since coming back, I've gone back into the corporate world, working now in commerce. And I think the main thing is that I've come from starting, a kind of an entry level job, and now, not in a boastful way, but I'm proud to say that I'm a director at a company now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've been following what you guys are doing with this podcast, and I just wanted to. I'm really thankful to be on, but I'm glad that I'll be able to kind of share something with people. Hopefully, it'll be
definitely
useful.
I think obviously, like you say, we've known each other for like 5 years and stuff like that. Was when you came to the Pump, what project was it about again now?
So it was with RSA, the Royal Society of the Arts, and it was to do with mentoring. And I can't say that I did mentor anyone. I think I learned so much more from you and the youth there. And I think a lot of that, I took it away, and I'm a bit of an overthinker, and I kind of thought, well, what can I offer to these people? And I held that with me for a little while, and there's a lot of self-doubt and stuff, but I'm working on that. And I think now that I have, done my travels and worked quite well in my career, that I think that hopefully I can work to help maybe people, or give them a bit of insight or tips or something like that, or, just help you guys with.
Because when you first came to the youth club and stuff like that, I did feel like you was a bit of a fish out of the water, because 100%. Obviously it was something new. Yeah. I think the youngsters that we had at that time were very boisterous and very loud. There was just, and it was kind of like, I remember we kind of had like a bad incident or a bad day, and I remember before you was coming, I sat them all down and I said, look, we can't have another day when you're acting the way how you are, because you're putting a bad reflection upon me. You're making me look like I can't run the youth centre or the club. But it was hard because I'm in the studio, I'm meant to do music, but then if anything happens, I was only one that could kind of keep them under control. But obviously we had each other on social media, and over the years, I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen, stop hitting the mic, I've seen your confidence grow and go to the next level. And then obviously why I want you to come on is because I feel like you've got a lot of experiences that not many people would have experienced. So like you were saying, you was in the corporate world, you was doing your job, you kind of felt like you got to the stage that you've done as much as what you can do. Now you have the urge to do something else, which was travelling. Yeah. So how did that come about? What made you
So I went to uni with a friend who is originally from Indonesia, and after the course she went back. And it was a case of, she said, oh yeah, come visit me. And you kind of think, oh, people are just saying that. But she meant it. And I did. And I went and visited her. I stayed with her family. She took me around the different islands. Well, she took me around the main part of Java and then Bali. And then it just opened my eyes up completely. Firstly, I was seeing a different side of the world. I'd never been to Asia before. I was seeing different perspectives because in the home with the family, they put the news on and I was seeing stories that I would never normally see, perspectives I'd never normally see. Along the way, we'd meet people and they'd tell us their stories, and I was just like, I never get to hear any of this because I'm in my bubble, in my little safety net. So that was one side of things, that urge to kind of understand more perspectives. You know, the more you know, the better you are in a sense. The better you are to kind of maybe support other people in your own self as well.
Self-development, isn't it? Yeah.
And then generally, obviously, the world's beautiful. So you just want to see as much of it as you can. And I've been very blessed that I've been able to save and put that money back into myself. And also, by going out to travelling, I've been able to connect with other people or volunteer and just do other things, not necessarily bit for myself and bit for others as well.
So when did you leave? When did you leave?
When did I leave? January, was it 2019? Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, so it was only last year. So it'd been like a year in the making where I'd started this role, and I knew kind of about a couple of months, and there was no progression and there was nothing to challenge me. And I knew I wanted to travel anyway, and I kind of thought, if I'm going to leave the company, I could use this time to go travelling. So I did. And I went around Asia and then I did a little pit stop in Europe on the way back, but I ended up going to about 14 countries in the end. And I did it all solo, which was really, really scary. But it was a case of, if I didn't go then, I was always going to find some excuse. And then I was just going to lose out on the opportunity.
So when you went to see your friend in Indonesia, was that the start of your travels?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well, no, so that was maybe like about 2 or 3 years before I'd finally gone. But that was the start of what they call the travel bug. Okay. And since then I come back and I've got the itch that I always need to go somewhere.
So like you're saying, it comes across that you're a very independent person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously you went and you travelled on your own. Did you have any anxieties towards going and travelling on your own?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Well, like what kind of, how was you feeling?
So, the 6 months before I'm really happy. Month before I'm okay. Week before I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I've lived away from home, but it's just a different thing completely. Plus I'm a female, and let's be honest, like, it's a scary world out there, and you hear of these horrible stories. But so that anxiety started to come in. I thought, well, if I go and I come back within a week or a month, at least I tried. Yeah. So that was my mindset of, just try. It might be longer, it might not. So I just thought I'd be back in a month.
How did your family feel when you let them know that I'm going globetrotting?
My mum's supportive, but she worries. I'm her only child, and I'm a girl, woman. I'm a bit older now, but so her worries came from love, which I completely understand, but there was obviously a bit of arguments and stuff up until the day, like a week or so before I was leaving. But once I was out there and I could show her, the experiences I was having, and then because I did volunteering as well, when I was showing her pictures of the kids that I was meeting and spending time with, then her heart melted and she just knew it was the right thing. But, it's always safety. That's the main thing that she's always worried about, which I completely understand.
Just 2 questions just come into my mind. So, what were the pros of going out there and travelling these different countries?
Yes, it's perspective of my world. I lived in a bit of a bubble, I guess. Been quite safe and blessed as well. So coming out and seeing what other people are dealing with, trying new things. I can't actually swim and still can't properly. But deep, like diving, swimming in a lagoon, things that I'm petrified of. But pushing yourself, getting yourself out of your comfort zone, being more active and outdoorsy. Absolutely love like hiking up these mountains. I mean, 4 a.m. starts. I'm I'm not the morning person, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. See the sunset and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love sunsets. And I said a bit about, I was volunteering, teaching kids, and the kids' faces. I'll cry just thinking I can see a few faces right now.
Yeah.
They're just beautiful beings. And the fact that, and it is a case of sadly they have less than me, but they have so much more in terms of community and love, but they might not have the things, and then that
the materialistic things and stuff like that. But eradicate all of that, like they're probably living more of a fruitful life than many people, because they got
100%.
love. They've probably got a sense of togetherness. You know what I mean? They all. Somebody might have to go out and get the food and stuff like that, but when they get the food, they're appreciative of it and stuff like that. And so what were the cons?
Some sleepless nights, some other travellers aren't very, what's the word, kind of, they don't think about how much noise they're making while you're trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Just silly things, like when you get ill abroad, like what do? Like you've got to go to the hospital and you're worrying about, the whole reimbursing the money and stuff like that. And then other silly things like my suitcase got completely demolished on the way back to Europe, but at the time it felt like a big thing. It wasn't, it's really small things. The cons weren't in any way big enough to outweigh the pros. They were just things that at the time might have peeved or upset me. But once you take yourself a step back and go, well, actually, is this going to affect you in a week or even a day? It isn't.
It isn't, no. Okay, then, so can you reel off the top of your head how many countries you travelled in that time?
So I went to 14 on that trip. I started off in Singapore, went to Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, India, Sri Lanka, Japan, Korea, Philippines, Taiwan. I went back to Malaysia and then in Singapore. Then I came to Europe and did Hungary, Austria. The other one's gone out of my brain now. They're in literally right next to each other. Hungary, Austria. Oh, mine's gone blank.
Okay, so out of all of them places, fair play, you got quite a few countries out then. Out of all of them places, which was your favourite place?
It's a really hard question. I know, the one that I really want to go back to, and I found the most of a culture shock, was probably Japan, because I think it's a completely different world, the way they live and a lot of things that they do. Even the small things like, trains turn up on time. It just makes such a big difference to your day. Everyone's really lovely. There's so much to see. You can go from the east to the west and north to south, and it's just a completely different place. Then some of the places that the most kindness I've seen, probably Taiwan and Philippines. That's not to say that I didn't meet kite people along the way, but the native people, the locals of Philippines and Taiwan, some of the kindest people I've ever met. So for one example, in Taiwan, and it seems like a small thing, but it's actually a big thing, especially when you're travelling on your own and you don't know the place at all. So me and a few of the people who were trying to find this secret bar, we were walking around the streets a bit aimlessly, and we obviously looked lost. And this lady, she pulls up on a moped, and she can't speak a word of English, and we can't speak Taiwanese. So she's trying to communicate with us and basically say, what do you need? And we tried to show her on our phones, there's this secret bar down this alley somewhere on our Google Maps. But obviously we'd been around the block and we just couldn't see it. She went into a store, tried to get the shop owner to give us a bit of direction. They didn't know. Went to the bar of the road. They didn't know. So then she drove off, and we thought, okay, that's fine. So we went around the block again, thinking, one more try, we'll try to find this secret bar. And it was just a normal residential estate, so we were like, we can't find it. Come back onto the main road, and she pulls up again, and we're like, where did she just come from? Where has she been? And without even speaking the language, we knew she'd gone further afield to try and find this place, and ended up helping us find where it was. It was really hidden down some back alley bits, but
and she found the bar.
Yeah, so she didn't give up on us. She went away until she could actually help us, and just those little things, She doesn't know us. She doesn't need to help us.
She still went out of her way to help you. So, obviously, you're from Birmingham. You're from the UK. Do you know what I mean? You've gone to all these different places. Like, what do you think? So, sorry, all the places that you went, the cultures. What would you say is the difference within the cultures from the culture that you was living in, and then going into their culture? And what was it that made you think, wow, this place is amazing, I want to go somewhere else, I want to go somewhere else?
The kindness.
Always
the kindness. They'll give anything off their own back to help you, and considering, they can see me, I'm a tourist, and there's obviously some places they see you for money, but there's a lot of places and a lot of people, locals, that see you as a human being, and they'll give anything for not anything in return. They'll just give to you because that's in their heart. And that's such a pure thing to see. And sadly, obviously there's some people here obviously that do, but not as much as you'd like. And there's not as much paying forward as you'd like to see. And when you're traveling, I guess, especially with Asia, it was the case that just kindness was the most important thing that we saw. Because
where we live, it's city life, isn't it? So everything is fast paced. Everything is like, it's cold, like it's cold in here. It's like you want to get to where you want to get to quickly, but when you go to them hot countries, everything's a bit more laid back. Do you know what I mean? Because it's nice, the weather's nice and stuff. Just to take a stroll would be nice, but over here when it's so cold, if you're not wrapped up, you just want to go to A to B. Everything's quick.
Yeah, there's some places, India, you can imagine that it's quite fast-paced. Japan, still really fast-paced because, they've got to get to work. And that's why the trains are on time, because they need to be there on time. So there's still a lot of places that are really fast-paced. But even within that, there's still the kindness. That's the difference. There's still some similarities to obviously what we have in city life here. There's still a lot of contrasts as well, but the kindness always comes through.
And that community feel that if I don't have, you have, and you know what I mean, if you don't have, I have. Everybody just comes together, sort of thing. Which is a shame, because that's something in UK alone that's what we're missing. That sense of love thy neighbour. Do you know what I mean? If you see somebody hurt on the floor or whatever, people will more than likely get their phone out before they ask, are you okay? Do you know what I mean? And that's sad. In other countries, I could imagine if somebody was on the floor or they'd been assaulted and stuff like that, they'd all band together to help that person.
There's still different things, obviously, the politics and the local law enforcement and stuff. Depends on the countries, of course, but there's still pieces like that where I don't want to say too much about different politics, because I'm not as much into politics as probably should be. But there's, for example, there's some countries, it's Philippines, for example, there's Prime Minister or President, I don't know which one, but that says, if someone has drugs, you can shoot them. So that stuff happens, and understanding that, that's stuff that is happening, but we don't see that over here. That story never comes to us because it's apparently not important, but it's so important to know that. But they don't want us to know.
Especially for people who might want to go and travel over there. Do you know what I mean? We need to know these kind of things.
There's so much research that you probably need to do before going to some of these countries. Some of the warnings are a bit extra, because you just think, well, there was one, I think for the Philippines actually as well, was about pirates. Be careful, don't go to this area because of pirates. And like, okay, I just won't go there then. But getting a bit scared about pirates now and being taken and stuff like that. So I'm just like, there's still a lot of good and bad. But I think that the good and the kindness of people who don't have as much as what necessarily we might have, because we have a lot of things and we're blessed with that. But the kindness that still comes from those sort of people is just so pure.
So what do you miss about like the other countries and stuff like that?
Partially, obviously, the culture, the food, speaking to the locals and getting to know their stories, and then from the kind of the traveller side of things is meeting for other fellow travellers, and every day you come down to breakfast and you probably meet someone new, and then you might end up travelling with them for. There's some people I travel for months or even more than that with, and you can keep in contact with them after, but it's just not the same as it is. You make these connections with people that you would never come across in your life.
Did you stay in a hotel, or was it tent or?
No, not 10. No, I stayed in hostels. A lot of hostels. There was the odd occasion where we splurged out and we got a hotel because, we needed a bit of a break. But mostly it was hostels. And hostels, obviously in Asia, they're very cheap for our standards. 20 quid a night, 10 quid a night, even less than that. And you get your little bed and it's all you need, and, communal showers, communal toilets, you're sorted, and then there's a breakfast in the morning normally, and that's when you kind of get to meet other fellow travellers and make that connection and possibly continue your days with them, or even travel into different countries with them as well. Yeah.
Because some people, like, they do just get to that stage in their life where even they've got an amazing job, they're like, you know what, I don't want to do this no more. Like, my yearning and my calling is to just go and travel the world. Like, did you meet anybody like that that's been travelling for like a very long time?
Yeah, I met a few nomads. So they work as their life is, travelling around and working. And then you meet some people who are just doing it as a holiday, but they'll try to keep going at least a couple of times a year or something like that. And then, you meet expats that, fully live in that and integrate into that country now. And rather than moving around, you meet, so many different types of people.
Okay.
But there's even, there was one case in Singapore. I met a guy who was staying in the hostel, but actually he didn't come for travelling. He came to Singapore to have an operation.
Okay.
So there's so many different things I would never think to meet a guy that was doing that, but he came over for an operation for, I think it was his heart, and he was getting better care in Singapore than he would do. I think he was from America actually, so he came over to Singapore for that.
Okay.
So even though you're in the hostel travel environment, you actually might meet people that are there for completely different reasons than what you think.
Yeah. So so the traveling side, like, that's great. I really appreciate you sharing your story and stuff like that. But so for your life, like, have you ever had any like traumatic experiences or any trials and tribulations that you've had to get through to kind of get you to the level of understanding that you're at now?
I wouldn't say anything like extremely traumatic, but I think a lot of what I'm kind of really coming to grips with now and trying to work on is mental health.
Okay.
And obviously that's quite a big thing at the forefront at the moment, which is great. My own mental health, kind of dealing with that, seeing other people, of friends and family who have battled with it. Some that have, there's even to the far end of the spectrum where some people have had to be sectioned and stuff like that. Seeing that has been quite tough, and understanding or kind of trying to figure out how maybe I could support, firstly getting the knowledge and understanding of what mental health means, because I never kind of got that at school or at uni or anything like that to really understand what it was, but how to support them. So now I'm trained as a mental health first aider, so predominantly that's for work, but if anyone else wanted to reach out, I'm not there to tell you how to live your life or anything like that. I'm not that person, but I can help guide to signpost to different organisations that can help you, different ways to cope, and then obviously if there's a crisis situation, I now am trained to be able to support in that situation, to help that person get the help that they need.
So within your own mental health, like, what was the triggers? What was it that kind of triggered your mental health? Because another thing as well, sometimes when we say mental health, I don't think that they highlight good mental health as much as bad mental health. When people just think mental health, they just automatically think in a negative sense. But you can have your good days, and do you know what I mean? And that's when you go out and you probably do more stuff. Do you know what I mean? And then some days, I always feel like sometimes I'll wake up and I'll know when you know what, today, Nathaniel, you need to stay in, you need to rest, you need to chill, you need to watch funny things, and then tomorrow you'll be okay. Do you know what I mean? So I understand that. Do you know what I mean? That sometimes it could just be waking up and just feeling a bit a bit off. But do you have any things that have triggered it, or?
I don't think for me there's not been like one incident that's triggered it. I think there's from the training I did a couple of months back now, they were explaining it like it was a container, and your container, it's a stress container, and your container can slowly be filled up with the different things that are happening to you or to people in your life, or things that you've seen, or things in the media. Obviously this year's been really tough with everything we've seen, because our eyes are opening finally, which is a good thing. But if you take too much of it through the social media and stuff like that, your container slowly gets to get filled up, and once it's full, it starts to blow over. Okay. So you'll find that, I mean, for me, it ends up being the weirdest moment. So all these things will fill up and then my container's full. And it'll be a case of, silliest incident, I can't get my eyeliner. I mean, I don't know if you can see, but I do like wing eyeliner.
Okay.
I can't get my eyeliner to match. And I'll start crying over that. And I'll have a breakdown, like not breakdown, but I'll have like just a moment over that. And I'm like, why am I crying over eyeliner?
Yeah,
but it's not about that. It's about all these things that I've filled up my container. So it's that understanding now that I have of, thankfully, that, when we talk about mental health, there's so many different things. And obviously for other people, it might be one specific, they might have lost somebody. There might be something that's happened onto them. And that's another form of triggers for mental health, or it might be a build-up of things as well. So it's having that knowledge of it.
So now you're, thank you for sharing that. So now you're mental health first aid trained.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like as a community we could be doing more to support people who are going through mental health issues?
Yes, the first thing is understanding. So firstly, the different there's so many different types of mental health, and I still don't understand all of them. Mm-hmm. That's something that I can continue working on. But at least having the general knowledge of the basic mental health and having an understanding of, we've just talked about the negative connotations. I mean, some people think mental health is still straitjackets and insane asylums, as they called them. And it's not the case at all. Mental health is something that we will all go through at some point. Poor mental health, good mental health, that's still it's the same thing. It's just, different levels. So having an understanding of it, understanding, how to approach someone who is going through a tough time or a low period. There's certain phrases that you can't say, you shouldn't say to someone, well, someone else has something, worse than you. Technically, that might be true, but that doesn't help that person at all.
Yeah. Or the whole man up for the men.
Yeah.
Man up, men are not meant to go through this, men are not meant to cry. Do you know what I mean?
That sort of stuff is just, who does that help at all?
No, it doesn't.
No one at all. So, it's things like that, watch what you're saying, and it doesn't mean PC, you can't say anything, but, just have that moment to think, well, how does that actually help that person? Would it actually be more helpful if I, just listen to them instead of me trying to chime in and I'm the worst for it. I'm trying to chime because I want to help and support, but that person just needs to speak. The best thing you can do is just be quiet sometimes. Or, if there's a crisis situation, then you need to maybe know the ways to step in or how to get additional support to help that person. So the knowledge yourself and knowing how to kind of address those situations and what those different types of situations or different types of mental health issues or things are. And I think generally just being kind to everyone. I think, I've tried to be more conscious of it now. I've been difficult with the maths, but, like trying to smile at everyone. It might look a bit crazy, but, if that smile makes that other person feel better. And I don't know them. I don't know what they're going through, but they might have had a tough morning. And that smile or that hello might just be like, what, actually today's going to be all right. In the car, letting someone go and saying thank you when they let you go, and then a lot of the times now, obviously, in Birmingham, we'll see a lot of homeless people at the traffic lights. And I don't pass money around, I don't have change, but I just give a wave. I acknowledge them. They're human beings. And I hope that makes a bit of a difference. And I'll keep, regardless of whether one person ignores me or or another person doesn't, keep doing that. And if we keep doing that and they keep doing that, just paying it forward, and we'll see a massive difference and having that community.
I think another thing as well is patience, and that's something that I'm having to learn for myself, like supporting people who have mental health issues or are going through anxiety. And sometimes you don't realise that your words could kind of like trigger it to get worse. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like taking a step back, trying to understand it more, maybe doing a little bit of research, and then coming to them and letting them know that, you know what, I'm sorry for how I might have spoke before, but I've took time out and I've researched and I think this now, and I've changed my perspective on this. They might think, wow, like you're going the extra mile to understand me. Like I'm going to open up to you because I can tell you genuinely care. Whereas like sometimes people try and say, people jump on the bandwagon with mental health, they're saying this, be positive, and then the next minute they're being horrible to somebody, or, I always say that sometimes you have to speak to people how they speak to you in order for them to listen, because some people won't listen when you're trying to speak to them and try to be kind and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say fighting fire with fire is going to get is sometimes it can create an inferno, but sometimes it can make them realise, wow, So that's how I'm speaking to you. I don't like you speaking to me like that. So you know what? I'm not going to speak to you like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, there's so many different things. But one thing I would definitely say is just to like, as people, we need to have a little bit more understanding and see that somebody that's screaming and shouting and being like just going OTT with you doesn't mean that they don't like you. It just means that they're going through certain situations. And a lot of the times when I've took a step back, like, wow, they've come back to me, they're like, you know what, I'm so sorry, this has happened, that's happened, this happened. I said, look, I understand. And that's why I didn't bite back, because I understand that you're going through other things in your life. So I forgot to ask you, and I hope I haven't asked you already, I'll go back a little bit. For people who might want to go out there and globetrot, like, do you have any advice? Have I asked you that already?
No, you haven't.
Okay,
but no, that's
good,
fine.
That's
Yeah, so I think before you go, we've talked about research, and I think just to kind of go into that a bit more, you can look into obviously the different things like visas, and I had a bit of an incident with, I went to India, and I'd planned the trip with a travel agency, and they can't necessarily give you too much information, too much guidance on visas and anything legal, because that's not their remit. That's fine, but I was going to volunteer, and I'd got the standard tourist visa. And when I got to the border, well, firstly, I'm a girl travelling on my own. Going into India, they were really confused. I didn't get that at all. Then I got all the questions about, like, you know, where's your mum from? Where's your dad from? Where's your family from? You know, how much money do you make and everything? And it was just really crazy. So at that time, I didn't understand why they were going, like, why did they stop me? And I got really het up, and I was just like, you know, if you don't want to come in your country, that's fine. I'll fly somewhere else. But I really wanted to come here to volunteer. I was open and honest about that, and I'm here to volunteer. Little did I know my visa didn't allow me to volunteer. You're not allowed to go to some countries and volunteer. So that's one thing you need to be very careful of. There's, look into the customs and the rules of that country. Places like India, those rules can change. I mean, obviously, we're all dealing with it now with tiers. India, you know, it changes a lot, and there's probably a lot of other places that are like that. So, you know, keep in the know about what that country allows or doesn't allow. And then, you know, things like, you know, learn a bit about the language and a bit of the customs and stuff like that. What else is there? I mean, save your money. I mean, there's so many ways to save money while you're here. You know, I mean, I'm not going to say that you have to buy this or that, but, you know, just have a bit more of a conscious effort, you know, when you're buying things. You know, can I buy reusable rather than keep using things and throwing them in the bin? Or, you know, maybe I don't need that really expensive pair of shoes. You know, maybe I just need a pair of shoes that in the sale instead, you know. Just having that mindset, and I have that generally, so that's why it was easier for me to save, because I was always kind of thinking that way. That's something that my mom's passed down to me. What would be another thing?
What about the volunteering side? How would they go about learning how to volunteer and stuff like that?
So there was previously STA, and they would have done that. I don't know any others besides them, but with STA they had groups like G Adventures and other brands like that. I think if you start looking at those, you'd start to find different volunteer programs, but again, be careful about what that country allows. So if you again, you can Google a lot of things. A lot of travel bloggers out there will be able to recommend something, and then you can be able to contact them directly rather than going through travel agents at the moment. In terms of like when you're traveling, I think the main things is trust your gut. You know, if you're in a situation and it doesn't feel quite right, just go back to the hostel, go back safe, make sure you know roughly where you are. You know, if you someone's saying, oh, let's go out and blah blah, and you don't necessarily feel that trust, don't go. Like you might miss out on a great night, but you also might have got into a bit more trouble. You just don't know these days, and the world is sadly quite a dangerous place. So yeah, just
having
trust
your wits
your gut.
about you at all times, innit?
Definitely. Also, I think before you actually go as well, pack light. I did the worst thing. I filled my 60-litre backpack full of everything. Okay. You can get things like I don't know why I thought like you can't get things when you go over there. Like, of course you can get things. Pack light. Just take the essentials. And then when you're there, talk to locals. You know, talk to other fellow travellers. You know, that's firstly you get a good perspective of the world. They might give you like hidden tips of cool spots to go to, especially like with food places. I love food recommendations from locals. It's brilliant. And yeah, I can't think. I did have another one in my head, but it's gone now.
Okay, so I've got 2 more questions for you. This the next one is like your pictures.
Yeah.
So first, where can people find you online and stuff?
So yeah, I'm on Instagram, Brave Girl Travel.
Yeah.
And so yeah, a bit about the name as well. Actually, I probably should put in. When I told people I was going traveling, I kept going, "Oh, you're so brave," and I knew it was because I was female.
Yeah, yeah.
And I took it with such offence. Like, how dare you? Like, obviously, there's a case of, will you be safe? That's a different question. But oh, you're so brave, because obviously I'm a small little female and I'm going out in the big world by myself and I can't, take care of myself. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And that is how some people actually meant it.
Viewed it.
So I took that word brave and I took it for my own. Yes, I am brave. Mm-hmm. Yes, so many other people are. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to use that word against me. I'm going to use it for my advantage. So that's why it's Brave Girl Travel. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've got loads of photos on there for my travels. I tried to keep posting. So there's a lot of throwbacks at the moment from things before when we could actually leave our houses and travel. And I tried to post a bit about, like kindness, or obviously everything that's been happening this year, how we can support different causes. I mean, more recently with, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Stand With The Farmers, the Indian farmer protests. No. So the farmers in India are protesting because there's been changes to the law that deregulates the market, so that basically, in short, the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor.
Okay.
And farming is a big industry in India, and it's a big part of the heritage and the livelihood, and government as always are just wanting to take that away and keep it for corporations. And so deregulating the market means that they can come in and put their own prices on things, and then the farmers don't get much, and they'll just drop out and corporations will start owning the farms. So you might have seen on Instagram there's 5 highways in Delhi where farmers and other workers and allies are protesting these law changes. And then also around the world, I mean, in the UK there was just down the road actually in Jewellery Court about 2 weeks ago now, there was a protest there, and people are standing up, especially from the Punjabi, Sikh cultures, Indian cultures. They're standing up to be heard, because if you don't necessarily know someone who's posting about it, or if you're not part of that culture, maybe you don't hear about it, and then the world doesn't, you've got to keep spreading that word.
I think that's really
things
important.
Like that I try to keep that, is as much as it's about travel and beautiful places and cocktails on the beach, brilliant, but actually it's about, and similar to what you guys are doing, it's different perspectives and the different bits of news that we don't necessarily hear, because the media is a bit one-sided, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I'm glad that you're passionate about that, and that you are what's the word now? You're promoting on your page. That's not the word that I'm looking for. You're raising awareness.
Yeah,
that's the word. I'm glad that you're raising awareness about causes that mean a lot to you and mean a lot to the culture and stuff like that. So last but not least, I ask this for everybody that comes on the show, Walking a Mile in My Shoes show. Do you have any positive quotes or affirmations that you live by? It could be one that you read or one that you made up yourself. And if you have a few, then
there's one thing that I tell myself very often, whether good things happen or bad things happen, is everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to mean, everything happens for a reason, so you just sit back and let it. I mean, things happen to teach you, to make you question things, to test you, to guide you and inspire you. Sadly, sometimes those things are horrible life events, and I'm not meaning to say that, that that's a touchy subject, but more the fact that if and then also I guess in the way that if you do good, not that you should do good to get good, but for yourself, but if you keep putting positive things out there, and if you keep doing good unto others, opportunities will open up for you, and then you use those opportunities to then do more good for others.
You pay it forth.
As much as you can. I think that's the one thing I've learned, and that's when, when I met you probably 5 years ago, I said to myself, how can I help? Like, there's nothing I can give to anyone. And I think now the difference is, I've had experiences, and I do feel that using either Instagram on my platform, or just the fact that I'm a female speaking, using that to then either share perspectives or share a bit of my history as well. Hopefully that will help people, or maybe there's more that I can continue to do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I just want to just say, like I always big people up on the end and stuff like that, but that's my character. I just want to say, like, I'm proud of your growth. I'm proud of what you've been able to do over these past 5 years. Like to see, I feel like your confidence has grown more. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And you know your purpose. You've gone and you've had that life experience, and now you're using that to influence others and help others. And this is the ethos that we all should be living by. We go out there, you know, we get kicked down, we pick ourselves up, dust dirt off our shoulders, but we still remain pure-hearted, clean-hearted, so that we can then pass on our experiences onto the next generation or people around you who may be struggling. Do you know what I mean? So well done for where you've come to where you're at now. And I know you're just going to carry on in your field and just plough through whatever goals that you have. Do you know what I mean?
But I mean, I know I've said this a few times. Obviously, I've been following you on Instagram, but you don't. I don't know if you realise is how much that sometimes I look at what you're doing and that inspires me. So you've been even though we haven't been in contact constantly throughout time, but you've been a part of my journey.
Oh, thank you.
So I really appreciate that, because seeing what you're doing, how you're helping people, has led me to keep going. How can I help people?
Yeah.
You know, what I've got. You know, got where I wanted to be, or you know, I'm blessed, and it was, well, how can I help others? And that's where. And
it's that chain reaction, isn't it? And that there just like makes my day to hear that. Do you know what I mean? Because even like he says, we haven't been in contact like that, but we still always had a watchful eye and supported each other and stuff like that, and still proud of each other. And to have this conversation, for me, I really appreciate it. And I know a lot of people. Like, everything's always different on here. It's not always one ethos. We want to speak to people from all walks of life. Do you know what I mean? And nobody's story is smaller or not as interesting as somebody else's. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And
thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
And then where they want to find you, it's Brave Girl Travel on Instagram.
Yes.
So make sure you follow her on Instagram and check out all her amazing posts. And I think that's it. From me, Nathaniel James, and from
Preiti, thank you.
We're out. Go! That was really good.
Yeah,
How did you feel?
that was just a conversation.
It's just a conversation, and it's not. This is what I said to people. Don't worry about the cameras.